Talk to me, Guardian. Rumor has it all hell has broken loose.
Long-term goal to world domination. Now, before we begin on the depressing road of Bungie's downfall, I just want you to keep this quote from Marty in 2007 in mind. Bungie's culture is a slightly irreverent attitude and not corporate, bureaucratic, or business-focused. So, yeah, just keep that little quote in mind, and whenever I talk about anything shady that Bungie have done recently, just remember that quote. Just remember that sweet fried gold. So, the real problem started even before Reach launched. In April 2010, after leaving Microsoft because they were too controlling, intrusive, and stifled their creative freedom, they signed an exclusive 10-year deal with motherfucking Activision, the publisher who has devs shit out games faster than Johnson can say what?
Say what?
Now, this was already a warning sign, but not even this could brace us for the colossal fuck-ups to come. So, in one of many pre-launch fuck-ups, the legend himself, Joseph motherfucking Staten, left Bungie. Sounds weird, right? He'd been working on Destiny's story for probably years now, with a bunch of writers that he himself had hired. Yeah, well, you might just be onto something. In mid-2013, when it came to presenting part of the story to Bungie higher-ups, they shot down his planned story for the game for being too campy and linear, and then proceeded to force an entire story reboot under a year and a half from launch, scrapping the entirety of Joe and his team's work. So years of work by an extremely talented writer was just thrown in the trash, and it wasn't even like it was a long way from launch. They had a year and a half, and in fact they didn't even have that. They probably had nowhere near a year and a half, because they'd have to make the story and then pass it along to gameplay teams to work on. They probably had months, a few months at the most, to come up with a better one, which is frankly ridiculous, and ultimately prompted Joe to leave Bungie and move back to Microsoft. Remember how I kept saying that Bungie's design philosophy was always to put the player first, no matter what they did? Well, it seems that was always Joe's intention with Destiny.
You feel responsible for not just telling an isolated story, but for building a universe that at some point is going to become more the fans than ours. It's going to take a life of its own.
The downfall of the design philosophy that made Bungie such an adored success was already in full swing. And as if that wasn't enough, in 2014, before launch, again, Bungie lost another legend, Marty. And they didn't just lose him, they fucking fired him. Jason Jones once said,
Marty's pretty amazing. Marty makes pretty much everything you do twice as good, and that makes me really angry, because he's just about the only individual who has that level of contribution to the team. But I would never say that to him.
So I guess that's one of the many reasons Destiny 1 sucked balls. He'd been hard at work for years on Destiny's soundtrack and was apparently really happy with it, saying it was arguably some of the best work of his entire career. But fucking Activision intervened at the last minute and swapped out his original music with some generic garbage in the E3 2018 trailer, the first of their many, many interventions. Marty went on to believe exactly what we all do now. Activision were compromising the trademark Bungie spirit, that spirit that he talked about in 2007, and the one that made them such a lovable, relatable company. Bungie ultimately fired him, but don't worry, our boy got his own back. He won 2 lawsuits against Bungie and got a shitload of money out of them in the process. So 2 major fuck-ups down, and we finally reached Destiny 1's launch. And immediately, fans noticed that something was missing. Something pretty important to a narrative-driven game. The story. Fuck all happens. Half the characters from the countless trailers are just missing. Entire play zones and environments are missing. A story that pulled you in emotionally, or hell, in any way whatsoever, was, guess what? Missing. Bungie had built up a 9-year legacy with Halo of telling beautifully crafted emotional stories that really threw the player into the thick of things and did a fantastic job of playing the emotions and the feelings of characters back it was just fucking empty. And then you realise that they were already marketing the first 2 DLCs over 3 entire months before the game came out. And suddenly, it all made perfect sense. It was getting painstakingly obvious that the content shown in teasers and pre-release trailers that was very clearly finished was being held back for DLC, and let's be honest, you didn't have to be a fortune teller to predict this. Most people could have told you this the second Activision got their talons on Bungie given their track record. And then we get to the first DLC release, The Dark Below, and it starts off in a fantastic manner. It retroactively locks players out of content that was once available at launch. It literally took a shit situation and just shit on it some more. Implying that things couldn't get any worse at the time made you sound crazy, but my god. And when it came to story content, lo and behold, the DLC included content that was not only cut from the main story, but was already on the fucking disc at launch. Then, guess what? The exact same fucking thing happened again with DLC 2. And then, I bet you can't guess what I'm about to say. The exact same thing happened again with the next DLC, The Taken King, but this time, Bungie somehow managed to make it even fucking worse. So the Dreadnought, which is this massive new play space, along with the raid boss, and presumably the story for it too, could be seen in one of the original Destiny trailers pre-release. This was shit that had been advertised to be in the base game months before it even came out. Months and maybe even a year before anybody even knew about the Taken King. And here was Bungie and Activision trying to sell it to you for not just $20, the price of a regular DLC, but $40 fucking dollars. Oh yeah, and it wasn't included in the season pass, as if they needed to kick you in the balls one last time. Can you feel the vice grip of Activision's hand around Bungie's neck yet? It's funny how these predatory and blatantly anti-consumer practices, something Bungie will always vehemently against and prove to be hero, never existed in their games until they partnered with Activision. Yeah, it's very funny that, isn't it? Very funny. But surely, Activision couldn't fuck up anymore, right? Wrong! Only a month after the Taken King blunder, microtransactions, of course, were added to the game. So Destiny now had a season pass, expansions that weren't included in the season pass, God knows how many different types of the game, and microtransactions. And it wasn't even like the content in these DLCs was new. As I said, it was shit that was already on the disc on day one. So over Destiny 1's lifespan, that mutual respect that Bungie had built up between themselves and their loyal fans, the mutual respect that helped make them so successful in the first place, had been thrown into the fire and had fucking rocket fuel poured on it. Their player-first philosophy was out the window. On Christmas Eve. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't bring it back, and Destiny 2 was their chance to redeem themselves. Well, shock fucking horror, they didn't. Granted, Destiny 2 did launch with an actual story this time, and yeah, it was a decent one, I'll give it that, but good lord, if this isn't a prime example of one step forward, 2 steps back, then I don't know what is. All of the content Bungie had added to Destiny 1 over its 3-year lifespan to make it somewhat of a complete, content-rich game was pretty much all gone. But guess which part made the seamless transition over to Destiny 2? Why, the Eververse, of course. Isn't it funny how none of the content with actual substance made it over, but the in-game microtransaction store did perfectly. For the second time, a Destiny game launched with little to no content, and this time it wasn't even built with existing fans in mind. It was so very clearly built to rope in casual audiences, aggressively so. The endgame was practically non-existent. As soon as you hit power level 305, you were done. That was it. Nothing else to do. For a game that's trying to be an MMO, having no endgame after reaching the end of your grind is just fucking backwards. What little endgame content Destiny 1 had, like rolling different perks on exotic gear, was removed, and the large majority of cosmetics were, guess what, locked behind RNG loot boxes. They'd even oversimplified weapon perks, gear perks, and subclass abilities to the point where there's like next to no unique customizability anymore that can make you as a player stand out. Something that's always been a staple of Bungie's games, and granted was there in Destiny 1. Well, consequently, the game's population began on a steep downward spiral that's still ongoing. Clearly that mutual respect is starting to wear off. And now we begin the microtransaction controversies. So the loot boxes in Destiny 2 are called Bright Engrams, and you unlock them by either buying them with cash or leveling up after hitting max level. Well, it turns out the game was literally lying in your face about how much XP you were getting, meaning you'd have to wait longer to unlock a Bright Engram, thus leading you to have to buy it with cash instead. And then, when people found this out and complained to Bungie about it, and they were forced to respond, they did so by doubling the XP required to level up, which is like the equivalent of being shot in an existing bullet wound. They took a shit situation again and made it somehow even shitter. But the first DLC was on the horizon, and like before, it could be a good chance for Bungie to sort of redeem themselves. Well, I'll give you 3 fucking guesses what happened next. Not only was the DLC severely lacking in content, but a majority of the DLC's endgame content, the cosmetic content, was locked behind RNG fucking microtransactions. So you have to pay to get access to pay more money to maybe get the stuff in the DLC, or maybe not. That's the beauty of RNG. If Lady Luck isn't on your side, then you can't do a single fucking thing about it. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, the hits just keep coming and coming and coming. The DLC took things that already existed in the base version of the game, like Trials of the Nine, the Nightfall Strike, and Prestige Raids and Strikes, and locked them behind the DLC paywall. So for the fucking second time, Bungie retroactively locked content available at launch for those who didn't buy the DLC. I can't believe this is actually reality. This seems like some fucking shitty playbook for some corrupt corporation. But no, welcome to gaming in 2017, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. This shit is honestly unfucking real, and you can bet your last damn dollar that Activision's intrusive, in-your-face managing is in large part responsible for this. The player-first design philosophy and mutual respect between Bungie and the fans is history now, and their destiny has been tarnished. Marty was right when he said Activision were fucking up the classic Bungie spirit, because the way that he described the Bungie culture in 2007 as not corporate, bureaucratic, or business-focused is now the complete polar opposite of reality. So that just about covers it. If you enjoyed this video, for lack of a better word, is this a video that can really be enjoyed? I don't fucking know. If you did though, don't forget to leave a like down below. I would really appreciate you doing so. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I see what they're saying. guys, I want to talk about microtransactions. This is a video I said I was going to make, and I know a lot of other content creators have said a few things about it, and really I'm going to approach this in the more, I guess the most logical way I can approach this, because I've seen microtransactions on a lot of different games, and I'm going to just kind of go about this in a way of whether or not this is an accepted thing to have in Destiny 2, and whether or not this is going to continue to be in Destiny. First off, let's go ahead and talk about microtransactions. I was actually going through Activision and their 10K, their annual reports, all their revenues, their expenses, and was just kind of looking at it, and I noticed that their product sales approximately was around 47-48% of all their revenues, which is just their basic game sales. And then if you look below that, you would see things like subscriptions and some other things, which essentially just meant microtransactions, things that were bought within the game itself. And that was approximately the remaining revenue, which was around 53-52%. So as you can tell, there's a lot of revenue coming from things like microtransactions, and I don't see that ever leaving from any game Activision ever puts out. Because if they were to just completely remove microtransactions, they would be in a hole about $1 billion. So yeah, I would not see them making that business goal. So in terms of Destiny 2, and whether or not you'll ever see Eververse leave, absolutely not. Now, is Eververse ethical? Is this something that should be in Destiny 2? And I'm going to go ahead and give you the two best answers for that. Number one, if Destiny 2 was popping, it was doing wonderful, we had all the content in the world, the game was gravy, I believe Eververse wouldn't even be a thought in anyone's mind. At the end of the day, it's just cosmetic items, and they're really not bothering me all that much. I know it's some exotics, which is kind of terrible. Like, there should be something that's like a standalone to show that this is purely just like cosmetic, whereas like if you're a new player, and that's what the problem is, it's like if a new player comes in and sees these exotics, they're immediately going to be like, oh, how do I obtain that? Oh, I can just buy that from here. Okay, so I just spend a little road money right here. Great, sure, I can do that. That's no problem. And I see the exploit there, even though it's not like huge and in your face and it's blinking alerts and stuff. It is definitely still there. They strategically place yourself getting in front of tests and getting in front of Ingro to see all of those things. So in a sense, I do not like that practice, but at the same time, in my eyes, if Destiny 2 was popping, was doing great, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. At the other side of things, though, is where I think microtransactions should be allowed in the gaming world. To me, a free-to-play model is completely acceptable to have microtransactions. You take something like Fortnite and they have microtransactions. Completely okay. Ion had it. Other MMOs out there had it. Especially just about every free-to-play MMO had some sort of microtransaction system involved. Where Bungie and Destiny 2 messes up is that, one, it's not a free-to-play game, but two, I wouldn't even call it double dipping at this point. I feel like we're almost triple, maybe quadruple dipping on our player base. You've got guys like myself that came in and bought the game not only for PS4, Xbox, consoles, but also went around and bought it for PC. And then you've got guys that come in here and they didn't just buy just the regular Destiny version. They got the collector's edition or whatever other edition out there that was so many X amount of dollars more than the basic $60. But then wait, we have DLC that we're paying money for as well when they come out, immediately paying full price. And on top of all those things, you've got microtransactions. To me, guys, it seems like so many things here that are racking in more and more dollars for Bungie and for Activision, and again, there's just nothing to show for it. I've got no problem spending money on games. I know at the end of the day we're all like bitching about $60 and $20 and we're all just kind of jumping up and down and we sound like children, but that's not even the point. I would pay $15 a month, and I did it for years on multiple MMORPGs at the same time, and I loved them. And the reason why I paid that much money because they were worth that much money. They had that much content, and whenever I compared Destiny to these other games, I feel like I'm paying for another subscription MMORPG despite it not being paid monthly. But after you get done adding everything together, it's where's the content? What does it have to show? And I don't think Eververse is what much responsible for us not having a lot of content. If the entire Bungie studio is focused up on making a couple exotic ships, an exotic ghost, and a few sets of armor, then we have some huge problems. At the end of the day, the easiest way for Bungie to fix all of this is to consistently keep putting out content and to take risk. And if there's anything I can say about Destiny 2, it just doesn't seem like a risky game. There is no risk taken that Bungie has really done. But the only risky thing Bungie has done is shoved an Eververse store in our face. And that's terrible. That shouldn't be the only risky thing. But as far as revolutionizing Destiny as a whole, nothing has changed much from Destiny 1. And actually, there's just a lot of things they have taken a step back on. Guys, microtransactions. I know we kind of got off on a tear right now about the game itself. Honest opinion, microtransactions, I just don't feel like should ever belong in this type of gaming model. But at the same time, I don't ever see it being removed either. Fellas, as always, slap that like button like your mama told you right.
They ain't coming out because they already got it in though. That's getting me everywhere.
Ah, the dawning. Destiny's annual holiday event has returned for the third year, I guess technically second year, but 3 years, bringing with it Mayhem Crucible, a bunch of snowballs, a hockey rink, and a slew of Eververse items. Let's cover the good first. Mayhem Crucible in Destiny 1, at least for me, was miserable. Golden Gun was everywhere, and unless I was playing a hunter, I was miserable, and I never wanted to play it. Ever. I just didn't find it fun at all. Mayhem Crucible in Destiny 2, at least for me, has resulted in a complete 180. I cannot stop playing Mayhem Crucible. And you gotta understand, I absolutely did not like Mayhem in Destiny 1. This isn't even some fond memories kind of stuff happening. Even in solo queue, I was playing very late into the night, having a lot of fun. I have no idea what happened, but I can take some guesses. Number one, the current state of PvP highly incentivizes sticking with your teammates at all times, rarely branching off unless under a coordinated attack. Time to kill times are slower than they were in Destiny 1 on average, although this isn't something I really mind too much, so that is also part of the incentive to stick together. But now, with the ability to have your super several times per game, that fear of branching away from teammates dissipates. You have the ability to do cool plays. You have the ability to go off on your own and not feel like you're going to instantly die. There aren't the massive stakes from regular PvP where you're only getting your super once or twice per game and usually at the same time as everybody else. You can waste a super and not feel bad about it. It feels like Destiny 1 again, in that I don't feel the need to stay glued to the hip of a teammate. Number two, it just feels like it works better with this game mode, on top of some changes done to how supers interact with other supers. 6v6 Mayhem was truly mayhem, and on certain maps like Sector 618, it was impossible to do anything. 4v4 just feels better for this kind of mode. It's chaotic, sure, but it feels more manageable, even on the smallest of maps. It just works better, or feels like it works better. While gunslingers and night stalkers are still everywhere, I played for 3 to 4 hours as a Dawnblade Warlock, and I was still having a blast playing Mayhem. However, I still am convinced that if you play Night Stalker and Mayhem, you hate fun and you will die alone, so have fun, you dweeb. That being said, I cannot give too much credit to Bungie for bringing back something that we already had in Destiny 1, regardless of how fun it ended up turning out for me personally. I was expecting something that I would do purely for engrams, and I ended up with something that yet again stopped me from fixing my sleep schedule. I hope we see Mayhem return to Destiny 2 with a bit more frequency. Snowballs, while nothing crazy, do make activities a bit more festive, and the snowballs themselves are actually really effective. They're basically the equivalent of a flashbang grenade. Yeah, flashbang grenades. PvE, remember when those were the thing to use? They're still really good, by the way. I can appreciate whatever effort went into completely covering enemies in snow when they're hit by a snowball. Even bosses are covered in snow. That's a nice little touch. My only gripe is the 10-second cooldown. I get that they're enabled in Nightfall and Prestige Nightfall, and those activities give you powerful gear drops and stuff like that. But I hope for at least the final week of the event, Bungie just gets rid of the cooldown completely and lets people go berserk. Heroic strikes are not hard at all. People are just blasting through them without killing stuff anyway. You might as well let us snowball the crap out of everything. They're not enabled in the raid, which I'm okay with. I get that raids are supposed to be a bit more of a serious activity. We also have the hockey rink at the farm. I have not really participated in the hockey rink, but I'm sure it's fun. Then we have the daily gift quests from Ikora, where you go kill a bunch of very specific dudes, and then you gather a bunch of planetary materials, 10 planetary materials, to make a gift, where you will then give the gift to an NPC. They will give you a gift in return, which is essentially a modified dawning package with most of the cool items, besides maybe the sword and the shaders, removed. Which brings us to the microtransaction part of the event. Eververse is stock.
How are you gonna get out of this? I ain't cuffing up. That's okay. Let me bring my cuffs anyway.
Stocked up with new, exotic, and legendary items, and an armor set for each class. Although a lot of the ships and sparrows just vary in the floral pattern they have spray painted on them. You do not receive dawning engrams for leveling up. You still receive the regular Season 2 engrams. If you don't want to spend any money, here's how you can get dawning engrams. You got your one freebie when the event started. I don't know if that's a weekly freebie or just one for the whole event. Then the first time you do the 5 Mayhem, 5 Strike milestone linked to the Dawning, you get Dawning engrams. So you get one for the 5 Mayhem and one for the 5 Strikes. The second time I did my 5 Mayhem milestone, the first one was on my Titan, the second one on my Warlock. The second time I did it, I received, I think, some shaders, and that was it. No actual Dawning engram. So assuming the milestones reset weekly, you'll be able to get 6 boxes total from that milestone. Then one freebie, maybe 3 total freebies if it's weekly. So 7 to 9 boxes if you do everything. Which, to be fair, it's not really that hard to do 5 Mayhem Crucible matches and 5 Heroic Strikes in a week. It's really not. It'll take you 2 hours total per week. Like I mentioned earlier, the daily Ikora gifts that you can get pull from a different loot pool. The loot pool isn't too different, it's just a reduced item pool with a sword and certain class items being unique to these boxes. You can't get them anywhere else. This loot pool is so different, though, that the shaders you get from them don't even stack with the shaders you get from actual Dawning engrams. In a world where people are complaining about vault space, that is not good. And here's the real kicker. The shaders you get from the daily quest, when dismantled, give you legendary shards, while the shaders from engrams give you bright dust. How much bright dust? 7. 7 bright dust. So, Bungie wanted to stop people from grinding the daily gifts for bright dust in case people are insane enough to just mass delete a limited time shader for 7 bright dust. Let's say you do all 63 potential daily gifts and get 2 shaders out of them every single time. That's 126 shaders times 7, that's 882 dust, which will barely be enough to buy maybe 1 armor piece depending on what it is. Really? Really with that? You're gonna develop split currencies over a potential 900 bright dust for insane people who do 63 dailies? Give me a break. This is just being petty. Here I thought it was Bungie's chance to show a little solidarity with the community. say, hey, we hear you about microtransactions, we're going to cut back a little bit, throw some more holiday cheer at you guys, give you more options to get some of the cool stuff from the Dawning, and maybe start to build back some of that community goodwill that Bungie doesn't really have anymore. Instead, we get the most complex systems Destiny has ever seen in the game, except it's with a limited time Eververse event instead of, I don't know, more permanent things in the game. If Bungie's version of throwing us a bone is being able to buy stuff with Bright Dust, then I don't know. I mean, I still play a lot, and I only have about 2,000 Bright Dust on PC. If I dismantled everything that I have right now, I could probably buy a full armor set. Does anything from the Eververse itself actually matter, though? No, not really. I'm mad just about the principle of it all. There's no effort being shown that this is even an issue for players, and that's what I have a problem with. I understand the solution isn't as simple as just get rid of the Eververse store, throw everything into the game, because the game doesn't support that kind of solution at this time. I think the game would need more activities or events to make those items more meaningful or to give them more prestige, instead of them just being tossed in at the end of heroic strikes or easy content. Reducing the content of the Eververse store in favor of making it more accessible in-game is only part of the potential solution, not the entire thing. The Dawning technically started in the Taken King era with SRL, Sparrow Racing League, a new activity. The Dawning 2016 Rise of Iron Edition came with a good amount of stuff. SRL returned with new maps, strike scoring was added to strikes and was an improvement over the previous Prison of Elders scoring, and it stayed after the event ended. 3 strikes were refreshed and reintroduced into the playlist with improved boss fights. The record book, which was a thing back in Destiny 1 that tracked a whole bunch of statistics and progress on stuff, was updated with new objectives to complete. This year's Dawning is Mayhem, a hockey rink, and snowballs. Yeah. I know people didn't really care about strike scoring at all, and people kind of got over SRL somewhat quickly, but this year's Dawning makes last year's Dawning look like an expansion by comparison. I was actually watching my video from last year, and here's what I had to say about microtransactions last year. Microtransactions appear to be much more forgiving this time around. I'm not sure if this has been the norm, but I had a friend tell me that they managed to get both sets of armor in 9 treasure boxes. At first glance, it doesn't appear that it'll take you a ton of boxes to get a full armor set, and you can get, I think, 6 to 8 boxes for free. 3 weeks from heroic strikes, and then 3 from hitting rank 5 SRL per character, on top of a chance to get them in the big gift boxes that open with the tags. I haven't bought any just yet myself, but even still, the microtransactions are a little bit more forgiving, not only because it seems more likely to get stuff that you actually want, but because there are actually things to do in the game in this event. It doesn't feel like I'm just being sold microtransactions. Here's what I had to say about microtransactions last year. Wow, that's a great point that I made. Me? Thanks. Myself? The microtransactions last year felt complementary to the things added in the Dawning last year. This year, microtransactions feel like the main focus. This Dawning event in general just goes to show that Bungie's main focus is still microtransactions at every turn. Their meeting us halfway moment is being able to buy armor with Bright Dust. I spoke to people yesterday who already spent a bunch of money on the event, so I don't even really know why I'm bothering to discuss this. It feels hopeless. People are still going to buy microtransactions in droves, and until that stops, this trend is just going to continue forever. I understand that at the end of the day, none of this crap really matters at all. Armor sets, ghost shells, ships, whatever, doesn't matter. It's just the principle of it all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
blasted, rock-shaking, concentration-shattering machinery.
A nice lander sitting all alone out here. Let's take it.
As long as you can take it far, far away from me.
Ship they won't see again. Guess what we did?
Caused pandemonium among the Cabal, detonated vehicles, pulverized a commander.
Yes. How'd you know?
From the unbearable racket. My head.
bit more and bring with them quite a few problems. And those desires often fall in line with what BioWare traditionally offered with their RPG releases. Take the suite of developers that created Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect franchise and apply what's been learned from these experiences to a Destiny and Division competitor. Instead, you should be incredibly concerned about what this game could become. Today we're going to take a deeper look at Anthem, and we're going to see how this game correlates with the slow decline of BioWare as a whole. We're going to look at EA's publishing and business decisions to see how these things have affected BioWare and how these things will affect Anthem. We're going to take a look at what has been shown, what has been said, and what has been leaked about the game to get a better idea of why there are so many things that are causes for concern. But to get started, let's take a look at BioWare as a studio.
Oh, hey, Cleveland. No.
BioWare's decline has been an extremely public and extremely obvious degradation of quality and creativity. BioWare was once one of the great companies of the video game industry, and seeing their label meant you were in for a storytelling treat. Games like Knights of the Old Republic, the first few Dragon Age games, Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. And then Mass Effect 3 happened, and we saw what appeared to be the falling off of a plateau that BioWare had created for itself. And it's more than just an ending. Something that defenders of Mass Effect 3's ending seemed to miss was that this ending was a direct failing of what BioWare was and looked to be. Take every choice players have made over years in 3 games and make every single one of them obsolete. Remove almost all player agency and finish your story in the most egregious slap in the face way possible. This was BioWare's first step away from what once made their games special. It wasn't just the ending, it was the money-grabbing multiplayer being thrown into a single-player RPG, a trend forced upon the studio by EA's insistence to move away from single-player-only games. This then pervaded every release of BioWare's moving forward. Dragon Age Inquisition had loot boxes, microtransactions that allowed you to progress without actually playing the game, that offered you in-game items for real-world money, and it all came to a head almost immediately after the release of Mass Effect 3. EA wanted another Mass Effect game, because fans wanted another Mass Effect game, and they would buy another Mass Effect game. But they didn't want to put their best talent on it. So EA purged the team behind the Mass Effect trilogy, including the director of the series, and moved them to a competing sci-fi project, haphazardly leaving Mass Effect Andromeda in the hands of an unprepared and unqualified studio that was now filled with less talent that was necessary to continue the series' legacy. Then they rushed the game out to meet deadlines, filled with microtransactions, filled with bugs, filled with glitches, and disappointed millions. This was all in the name of a game that was internally codenamed Dylan, a game that, as of this writing, has been in development for almost 6 years, a game that takes everything that made BioWare a pillar of the industry and strips every bit of it away. Today, you might know that game as Anthem. So what is Anthem? What makes the game such a concerning topic of conversation within the gaming industry?
And I would have made millions if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
Anthem is less of a mystery than some of games media made it seem upon its gameplay reveal at E3 in 2017. Getting the most obvious out of the way first, Anthem is a sci-fi co-op shooter very much in the same vein as Destiny. It's set on a planet dominated by huge creatures. Humanity has separated themselves from these monsters by hiding behind a colossal structure known as the Wall, very similar to the tower in Destiny, and now live in a shanty town called Fort Tarsus. Mechanically, the planet will work as a pseudo-open world with what has been referred to as colossally huge environments. All fine, all relatively normal press speak for a pre-release game of this nature. What you might not know, however, is that the development of Anthem has been far from smooth, especially recently. As previously stated, the impetus and foundation of Anthem's development began the second Mass Effect 3 finished production. This means that they have spent 6 years trying to get this game made and completed, and they've suffered losses. The first loss was truly a loss. Anthem's acclaimed lead designer Corey Gasper passed away, leaving a vacancy within the studio that is impossible to fill. However, the development turbulence went beyond this unfortunate passing. Creative direction starts at the top with any product, not just games, but the foundation of a game also starts at the top. The general manager of BioWare and the lead director on Anthem, Aaron Flynn, left the game and the studio without warning and without giving a clear reason as to why in 2017. This monumental shakeup saw Casey Hudson come in to replace him late in development. There are certainly many things that can cause a change of this nature to occur so late in a dev cycle, but it is almost always some sort of irreconcilable differences between leads on a project. For now, that's just speculation, but very similar realities befell Mass Effect Andromeda, and those stories have since become public, and we saw what became of that game. Development shakeups this late in the process are never a good thing, regardless of the cause of these changes. But here we are, and here is EA in 2017,
doing what EA does. After these changes occurred, EA started opening its mouth in both financial calls and at events like E3, and we got to see just how little the game shares in common with past BioWare releases, and just how much it might share in common with Destiny and Star Wars Battlefront 2, and the outcome might not be pretty.
Break what's left of your spirit.
Anthem is what EA calls a live service. Other games that operate in this way are The Division and Destiny. Essentially, the game is a constantly evolving platform for content. This is par for the course with a multiplayer MMO light like Anthem. The problem is that EA's history with multiplayer releases has been disappointing at best and scattered recently. In fact, EA is already planning, in the words of EA's own Patrick Soderlund, to have Anthem be a 10-year experience. These are the same type of things said by Bungie before Destiny hit store shelves. What this really means is that EA is looking ahead on Anthem before the game is even released. Again, we saw the same thing with Destiny. This means DLC plans, microtransaction updates, you name it. You're certainly not going to get a story-focused BioWare experience like you would traditionally expect. But what is more discouraging about this information is that, for one, for a game to exist as a service under the EA umbrella, it's going to be defined by the grind, by the repeating of activities, by a lot of what you get out of the aforementioned Division and Destiny, and a lot of things that are more damning that we'll get to a little bit later. This reality will allow EA to launch the game even if it isn't ready, even if it isn't full of content, and give them an excuse to fix it as they go. We saw this with both, again, Destinies, we saw this with The Division, and if you expect EA to be better, they're a far more money and release-happy publisher than either Activision or Ubisoft. We can already see some of the machinations of this creeping into what we've seen from Anthem. The revealed gameplay teaser that released before E3, we saw these exact words pop up. The story doesn't end here, it's just the beginning. This sounds like the foreshadowing of some pretty good DLC mantras and pretty good reasons to withhold finished content for sale post-launch. Now, this isn't literal, this was a tease of what was to come at E3, but the point still stands. There are a few things that are nearly impossible to remedy when it comes to this kind of shared world live experience. One is player agency. BioWare has spent their entire history ensuring player agency was at the forefront of their games. Agency is more than just a buzzword in gaming, it's the amount of control the player has over the world and their choices within a game. In a shared world experience, in these types of MMO lights, that's nearly impossible. If every player makes contradictory choices, the world you've created turns into a series of possibilities, a series of unrectifiable paradoxes. This then leaves the studio with the task of forcing the agency into the player's character and progression itself. Where have we seen this recently? With EA. Star Wars Battlefront 2. The launch of the game was filled with incredibly predatory and mean-spirited progression systems and paywalls, which brings us to maybe the most terrifying thing that may come to pass with Anthem. Let's make one thing abundantly clear. EA does not want to turn all of their games into games as a service because they believe that's what the consumer wants. They did not shut down Visceral and its single-player Star Wars game because they really believe in the excuse they gave about gamers no longer wanting single-player experiences. They did not shift all of Mass Effect Andromeda's talent to Anthem because they thought it was best for both games. EA has made all of these aforementioned decisions and continues to make these kinds of decisions for their studios because they make them the most money. If Activision, Ubisoft, and WB are Huey, Dewey, and Louie, EA is Uncle Scrooge. EA will almost certainly monetize the hell out of Anthem. Let's break down how, using not only what we know about the game, but what EA has said themselves about their publishing decisions this year and moving forward. The first and most obvious way is DLC. Anthem, just like nearly every EA game, will feature some sort of DLC that will be large chunks of content used to fill out the service or game, much in the way that Destiny does, or again, The Division. How do we know this? Because almost every single EA releases an exorbitantly priced season pass to go along with it. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 didn't have what you say, and neither did Andromeda. Well, fair point. However, neither of these games are similar in nature to what Anthem is, but what did allow them to release without season passes is how EA managed to have their devs monetize every other function of the game. Battlefront 2's predatory progression systems and locking of content behind paywalls while simultaneously offering clear and abrasive pay-to-win mechanics was a decision that caused temporary backlash. Despite popular belief, EA did not remove these systems from the game in response to this. They, in their own words, suspended them so that they could return to the game at a later date. Then they followed up this move by stating very clearly that their approach to DLC and microtransactions moving forward absolutely will not change. So how does this affect Anthem? Well, you can certainly expect loot boxes, as we've seen in the past. BioWare and EA releases have had a lot of them. In fact, you can probably expect a good portion of the reward system to revolve around these loot boxes. You can expect to be able to do the same things you would do in Andromeda and Inquisition and Battlefront, FIFA, Madden, and being able to use real-world dollars to boost your progression, possibly even your leveling, as well as get an advantage within the game that may or may not affect the players around you. This is especially concerning given that we don't know much about whether or not Anthem will offer any sort of PvP options for players that could further the pay-to-win road EA has been walking down. And if we don't see that at launch, it's almost a certainty we'd see it down the line. Imagine Destiny with loot boxes that offer more than cosmetics, a progression system tied to real-world dollars, and a constant reaching for your wallet, and you have what could very well be Anthem in its final release date. But here is the most important question surrounding Anthem. Can this game cut a different path for itself? Is there a chance that Anthem will be everything we want it to be, without being filled with everything we don't want? There was a recent forum post that posed a simple question. Can Anthem be saved from EA's rule of tyranny and their pursuit of every dollar? It's an interesting question because a quick glance at the history of 2013's worst company in America would lead the rational gamer and onlooker to give a quick and concise no in response to that question. But here, we're going to make sure that we look at this from both perspectives. So what is it? What are the things that EA and BioWare can do to ensure this isn't a train wreck for the gamers that create their word of mouth and keep their communities alive? The first thing is simple. If Anthem is going to continue this trend of in-game gambling in the form of loot boxes, they must remain cosmetic only. They cannot give any chance of an advantage in-game to the players regardless of whether or not the game is solely PvE. These systems are predatory. They prey on human beings' power fantasies, on their lack of time, on the father's realization that he has other time commitments that are more important, on the kid's birthday money. They are borderline unethical. The second thing is to avoid the trappings that Bungie created with the Curse of Osiris DLC for Destiny 2. Do not utilize DLC as a high-level or endgame content lock. Do not retroactively lock content for those at higher levels to artificially create demand for your DLC. Be smarter and don't do everything you can to split your player base early with this DLC approach, as it will not encourage the longevity of the game's community, even if it does lead to more immediate DLC sales. And finally, make sure you provide the day one consumer with a fair and reasonable amount of content for their original $60 purchase. Do not take the approach of releasing a bare-bones product with the idea of taking advantage of this game as a service ideal and releasing more fleshed out content on the back end than what the original purchase offered. Make sure that you have a coherent story, a reasonably enjoyable experience to offer the player that doesn't necessarily want to spend every minute playing with strangers, and ensure that this content is not less interesting than what your DLC will offer. A problem the original Destiny suffered from greatly. But here's the reality of the situation. How likely do you think it is that all of these realities will come to pass? That EA learned something from Battlefront 2, or Destiny, or The Division, and they are adjusting Anthem to suit the gamers' desires and purchasing decisions? You can see Anthem from every perspective, and you'll still find it difficult to see the forest through the trees that EA has planted themselves in. Anthem should be exciting. It should be something to be eagerly anticipated, but EA has destroyed so much trust that this simply is not how gamers view the future of their products. It's scary to think that Anthem may signal the true end to the BioWare that gamers once knew, the true end to the studio that brought us some of gaming's greatest single-player experiences, some of gaming's best stories. It's sad to think that there's a portion of the gaming community that no longer has faith in BioWare. At this point, the combination of EA and BioWare is one that sounds a lot like your cheating ex coming over to your house for dinner with her new boyfriend. You know they're going to make you uncomfortable. You know they aren't going to respect you, your house, or your time. You know they don't respect the support you've given them, but you loved her once, and so you keep inviting her back in. Can Anthem come out and be amazing and have none of the worst machinations of EA and BioWare's recent decisions? Sure. But EA, you know what you're doing. You just don't care. So no need to waste time relaying a message in your direction. But BioWare, is this the road you really want to travel down? Are you okay with your recent decisions, with what you've done to some of your biggest franchises? Are you okay with the continued soiling of your name? You were better than what you've been recently. Hell, you were awesome. But now Anthem appears to be a complete loss of studio identity, of the things you've preached over the past decade. BioWare, for your sake, I hope Anthem is much more 2008 than it is 2017. Because if it isn't, you just might become that ex we stopped caring about. Well guys, that was it for today's doc, and as always, the start of a dialogue. What did you think of what you saw of Anthem? What do you think of what's been said here? What do you think might become of this game? Are you excited for it? Are you not excited for it? Why or why not? And most importantly, what do you think of BioWare? What do you think of Andromeda? What do you think of where BioWare as a studio is at today? Let me know the answer to any of those questions down in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. And if you are not yet a member of this team, press subscribe. I put out gaming analysis, examinations, and essays just like this one twice a week. Subscribe so you do not miss any. And as always, I will link my Patreon in the top pinned comment down below. So there we can support this channel even further. Every little bit helps, but just watching these videos is also a great help, and I appreciate it. And I will link my Twitter account in that pinned comment as well. As there we can follow me to get a better idea of what essays might be coming, what games I'm playing, and take polls as to what you want to see me talk about next, what essays you want to see come to the channel next. As always, just a sincere and genuine thank you to everybody for the support, for helping this channel grow so incredibly fast, and just for giving me a chance to talk about games, and start these conversations with you guys. You know, this is a dream come true, and I really, really genuinely and greatly appreciate each and every one of you, and as always, if you completed these videos, I appreciate you watching, and maybe you'll stick around, and hopefully next time I can put out something you do enjoy. So until next time, guys, I'm out.